everybody, welcome back. All right, well, it's going to be time to do a lot of card changing. A lot of this stuff is going to change because we are going into Gemini. So all of these cards are going to change up here. All of this stuff is going to change. We're going to get a whole bunch of new cards to look at, which is awesome. So this video is the Eight of Swords, Gemini One. This is the first Decan going into Gemini. All right, so usually at the beginning of the video, I spend a little bit of time talking about how this card has shown itself in my life and the different things that have happened. The thing that I found, everything moved really slow. And it was really hard to get anything to click. And it was kind of like everything was slow moving. It was really strange. It took forever to get things accomplished. Things that I wanted to get done, I couldn't get done because something else happened that made me then have to kind of like reschedule myself or redirect myself to take care of something first and then try to go back to the other thing. I found it's a really taking a long time for things to fall into place, taking a long time for things to happen. I've got students who were scheduled to come and learn who now canceled, and it went from being, learning this week to now they can't come until the fall. So it's like a lot of time, a lot of things just like taking forever to fall into place. The generosity that bestowed me and my husband from the Six of Pentacles is taking forever to fall into place for things to happen. It has to go through paperwork and from this person's desk to the next person's desk and so on. So it's like just this really slow moving energy where things are just taking forever to happen and to fall into place. So that has given me a completely new outlook on this card and the way that I was seeing it. Because for the longest time, I saw it as that waiting, but in a faster pace. I didn't put it into such a slow time moving, right? But it makes sense. It takes forever for things to sprout, to germinate, to sprout, to grow, to blossom, to make fruit or vegetables, right? So I mean, it makes sense when you really honestly look at the card and really get down to it. And that's the funny thing about the Rider-Waite is I find the card image so on the nose that you almost kind of not get it because it is so in your face obvious, if that makes any sense to anybody. But that's kind of how I've perceived it. It's like, yeah, like when you look at this card and the way that things are and the way Susan has explained it in the book, you're just like, yeah, like duh. Like makes perfect sense to me now. So this is, like I said, I'm really enjoying doing this. I'm really enjoying looking at these things differently, and just it's gonna help us to really build our own definition and keywords of tarot, and that makes for a very strong read. So this is just strengthening us, and this is a wonderful, wonderful, long but wonderful thing to be doing. Like I said, I'm really enjoying myself doing it. I think it's great. And I keep hearing from others that they're really enjoying it too. I'm glad everyone's really enjoying it because I'm really enjoying it. All right, let's start changing all these cards because there's a lot of things about to change. Pretty much on every single card. Actually, no, every single card is going to change. So, yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's change these ones first. We're going to say goodbye to the fixed energy. We're going to say goodbye to Taurus. We're going to say goodbye to Earth. We no longer need those. Now we are into Gemini. We are into air element and mutable. So mutable meaning we are at the end of the spring season and we are about to start to take on summer energy. So we're at the end of spring. Gemini is the sign, the zodiac sign of this time. It's in place from May 20th depending on what zodiac you're following, 20th, 22nd, and around there, to the 21st-ish, right? Depending on what zodiac you're following. Then we've got our air element, right? Because Gemini is an air element, so we're dealing with the air. And we're going to now change all of these. And then we're going to read about all these. We're going to read about all these. We're going to read about everything. Okay, let's look at our new cards. So we're going to say goodbye to the Hierophant is leaving us. All of these cards are leaving us. We're on to new, different things. We are dealing with the Eight of Swords, the Lovers, and the Wheel of Fortune. There's our Hermetic Tarot Lovers, our Hermetic Tarot Eight of Swords, which is called Lord of the Shortened Force. And we've got the Wheel of Fortunes, which is Lord of the Forces of Life. And the Lovers is Children of the Voice Divine. So there's all our new cards. We're leaving Saturn behind. Saturn is leaving us. And we are bringing in Jupiter. And then I'll grab our moon card and put it down right here. Which, like I said, isn't necessarily following suit. Here's our moon cards. I picked two of them, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But yeah, here's what we are now looking at for the next 10 days, roughly, in around. All new energy. Yeah, really cool. I'm really interested. I like all of this, because these are some of these cards where I was kind of always like, not really sure how to, like, I ended up establishing my own keywords and my own energy and my own thought about these cards. But at the same time, it's just really interesting to see them, like how they're being depicted and how Susan T. Chang is looking at them. It's really helped me be able to look at these cards in a different light, which is really neat. We still have our little extra energy, our little extra cards that we can tap into that are off to the side, and I'll go over those after. Nothing is changing with those quite yet. We have a little bit longer with those. All right, so when we look at all of this, let's get in and read about these top cards, and then we'll get really deep into this stuff. Okay, so let's see what she says in the Stars Divine. All right, we have the Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are the air signs. Air symbolizes the intellect. It is the realm of ideas and communication. It seeks to learn and share information. Intelligence, articulation, and curiosities are all the qualities of air. It is mentally active and energetic, which is really neat that we're changing it out at the same time as a sword coming in, right? So that's pretty neat. All right, Gemini. Let's look at Gemini. All right, so for Gemini, like a butterfly, Gemini flutters from petal to petal, seeking experience and knowledge. The curious sign is extremely active, buzzing with energy and ideas. Drawn to the intellectual realm, this sign loves to communicate and is social and friendly. Well, that's neat. I like that. A little bit of positive energy. And then we've got mutable, right? So we are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces are our mutable signs. So we'll be visiting this again with 3 other signs. The mutable sign is the end of a season. Gemini is late spring, Virgo is late summer, Sagittarius late fall, and Pisces late winter. During these periods, the upcoming season can be sensed. This gives these signs a flexible, adaptable quality. Super cool. All right, so those are our top ones. These are the ones that we've changed to. And then now we're going on to, let's start to look at all of this, all this new stuff that's happening here. Okay, let's get into Susan's book, which I always really like to do. I love the way she just words everything in this book. And I like to read from it because there are some people who are following along that have chosen to not purchase this book. So it's always good to really go over it and give everybody a good sense of what this book's about, because it's fantastic and it has so much wonderful knowledge in it. So when I read through the chapter, I found it really interesting how she explains the Eight of Swords, as well as the Wheel of Fortune, as well as the Lovers. It's amazing. So to me, Lovers was always kind of about choice and commitment, and I always kind of saw it that way. So it's interesting how she kind of refers to it in that light as well, in her own way. And the Wheel of Fortunes, obviously, it's the ups and downs of life. Sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't. And that's very much still kind of the same energy that's about that. For me, when it came to the Eight of Swords, when that showed up in a reading, I would always see it as like a mental overload, like just too many thoughts, too many directions, too many possibilities that mentally is affecting the person. It's coming from a mental state, right? Whereas the Seven of Cups is about that having too many choices, but it's like that emotional, too many choices that affect you emotionally, where I feel like this is overwhelm and being stuck mentally, like too much stuff going on, right? And that's how I kind of always saw it, right? But when I got into Susan's book and started reading it, the way she explains it is such an interesting concept. And it's honestly given me a completely different way of reading this card. In her book, Susan says the Lover card is associated with the Hebrew letter Zion, meaning sword. The Wheel of Fortune corresponds to Jupiter, the force of expansion. So, as it's showing in the Eight of Swords, or how it suggests that there is so much choice that it can be paralyzing, right? And that's what the card is showing, is there's just so many choices that it's leaving her stuck and feeling like she can't move forward. She can't do anything. She can't make any choice, right? Because there's just too much. So she talks about how the Lover card, once again, how it corresponds with the Hebrew letter Zion, which means sword. And then the Wheel of Fortune corresponds to the Hebrew letter Kaf, which means outstretched palm. So the Lovers represent the moment when we are most free to choose, whether that is selecting a mate, a future, or simply our next action. And the Wheel of Fortune endlessly spins our destinies, good lots and bad ones, but it does not offer you a choice, right? So, in other words, the hand outstretched for blessings cannot grasp a sword. So, what happens, and this is what she says in the book, so what happens when fate runs into free will? She talks about how it's interesting that the two majors, the Lovers and the Wheel of Fortune, are struggling for dominion, right? So you've got the Wheel of Fortune that just keeps spinning and spitting out destinies and, the way things are, and then you've got the Lovers trying to pause it and choose. So you got this one spitting out all of your experiences, all of the different fates and destinies and things. And then these guys are like, hold on, like, which one do I choose, right? Because it's about choice. So you've got, it's an overwhelm of both of these cards, right? In the Eight of Swords. So the Eight of Swords has bound itself, unable to accept what is given and unable to choose anything else. It's not like the Four of Cups, which is twofold to be interested in what is being offered, right? The Four of Cups is that guy that's sitting by the tree and that cup is being extended and offered to him and he's just looking out like, whatever, right? So the Four of Cups is he's so content and has so much going for him that he doesn't even need to choose. He isn't even interested in what's being offered. Whereas in the Eight of Swords, it's that feeling of just can't do anything, can't make a choice, can't accept what's coming forward, like that complete like paralysis, right? We're unable to move forward or do anything. And when you're in that state, like she says in the book, you experience frustration. You are unable to complete what you intended. You get the Hermetic down here, which is the shortened force, right? Because of the wheel has no interest in stopping on account of your sense of personal agency, right? So better to run with the wheel than try to freeze it in its place. And then she talks about how the Lovers card in the Smith in the RW is depicting that exact moment where that choice is taking place in the Garden of Eden. So you have obviously Adam standing before the tree of life, and you've got Eve standing before the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So you have that exact moment when that choice takes place, and we all know how that story goes. We know what happens. So it's very interesting how it's like that exact choice that shows you how things can happen and consequences of your choices and what happens in that exact moment frozen of seconds before that choice was made, right? And then I find it really interesting in her book she talks about how the Eight of Swords and the other cards, the other Eight of Sword cards. And she says, like, what do you do with the Eight of Sword energy when you're in that Eight of Swords? And then she says she looks to the 4 8s for answers. So she's got her Eight of Swords in the middle, right? And she's saying the Eight of Cups, so you can choose to walk away. The Eight of Wands, where you can wait for change. The Eight of Pentacles, where you can get busy and start making something and doing something. Or the Eight of Swords, where you can quiet your mind. And it's interesting how she uses the Marseille Eight of Swords in this. And just to use the energy of that Eight of Swords to quiet your mind. I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. I never looked at it like that before, where you can use the energy of the other 8s in the deck to kind of find your answer for what's going on here, right? Or how to handle it or what to do. And then in the book, she talks about how for her, the Eight of Swords was like things not moving forward, things like just everything being on pause, that pause moment again, where everything got slowed down and confused, or she lost her way because she was somewhere she didn't know. And she talks about her husband got a flat tire, and then she had to get her way through all of the insurance information, which took forever. So it seems like the Eight of Swords is kind of like that, like that, like everything just stops working for a moment and you got to figure your way through it, right? And she said it quite literally represented a snagged sewing machine when she was trying to make something. So really interesting. But she also talks about how the takeaway from it, what are you going to do? And like I said, you look to the other cards and she's got wait it out, walk away, still your mind, do something physical. But whatever you do, just don't spend your time worrying about the problem or persisting through it. Like like pushing your way through it, making it work and happen, because it won't work. And it'll just lead to even more Eight of Swords energy, right? And then she goes on to the poem, which is here as well. But I haven't really been reading the poems, so I'm going to skip the poem part for this video. But really interesting, when you look at it that way, and it's like that pause, that paralysis, that like inability to move forward because there's just so much happening that you don't even know what to do or choose. And I think that that's amazing. And how it shows in how the Wheel of Fortune just keeps spitting out things and life just keeps going on. And then you have the choice that's happening in this card, right? And it's like, how do you choose when you have all this stuff going on? So, I mean, really quite amazing when you look at it that way. The Jupiter card is also pulled into this because remember, like we said, it was associated with the Wheel of Fortune. So let's get in and let's read about these cards, especially the Hermetic Tarot, and then we'll take a look at the Moon cards and see what those are and how they are working into this, or if they even do. All right, so in the Stars Divine, we've got Jupiter. So let's read about Jupiter. So it has a long cycle, not too long, but it's pretty long. We've got 12 years. And it says Jupiter is the generous daddy, the one to provide luck and good fortune. It expands horizons and bestows optimism. It encourages faith and lifts spirits high. Philosophy and meaning of life are its characteristics. Really, really crazy, because that's such a positive card. But once again, it's like, I do feel the Wheel of Fortune. I mean, sometimes it goes good, sometimes it goes bad, right? But I do find it to be more of a positive card, I feel, than a negative card. I don't feel a negative energy necessarily always coming from it. But obviously, if you get it reversed or look at your surrounding cards, will also depict what kind of energy is coming from the Wheel of Fortune, right? But that's very interesting. So, I mean, we've got some good energy present. We really honestly do. And now let's get into the Hermetic Tarot book and read about these ones, because these are always quite interesting and we've got a lot to cover. All right, the Wheel of Fortune. We're going to start here and then go this way. All right, the Wheel of Fortune. Lord of the forces of life. The wheel of all life is being looked over by the sordid Sphinx of Egypt. The letters tarot without the T appear at the four directions of the wheel and also form the word rota, R-O-T-A, meaning wheel. The glyph at the center of the wheel is the seal of Ezekiel, and the symbol of Jupiter appears in a cushion at the bottom. The letter Kaf means palms of the hand, in the lines of which one fortunes may be read. So we've got the cushion down here that's got the symbol of Jupiter. We've got the lines, right? We've got some stuff happening here in the middle. We've got the T-A-R-O, right? Which also can be spelled R-O-T-A, which is very interesting. Very unique card. Really cool. All right, let's look at the next one. 8 of Swords. Lord of the Shortened Force. 8 swords point upwards, crossing and touching near the top of the card. The rose appears darker but intact, except for 2 bent rays at the upper left and right. There are 8 rings, 1 for each sword. The force is shortened in this card as evidenced by the rings, which are incomplete. The symbol for Jupiter and Gemini appear at the top and bottom. Okay, so we've got the Jupiter and Gemini here. We've got the incomplete circles, right? The rose at the top that's darkened but blossoming and looking still good. And all the swords like trapping that flower, right? Really cool. Quite different than what we see in the RW. But you still kind of get that same feeling, right? And then we'll go to the Lovers next, which is a really different looking Lovers card. Children of the Voice Divine. Andromeda is shown chained to the rock and threatened by a dragon rising from the waters of stagnation. Perseus quickly wields a sword to protect her against the dragon. At the upper right of this card appears the sign for Gemini. It is important to study this card along with the card Temperance. The Lover's card also pertains to Sagittarius, the archer, hence the bow and arrow in the upper center. Although the Lovers and Temperance are opposite cards, they are very closely and strongly connected. All right, we'll have to maybe look at that when Temperance comes around. So here's our bow and arrow that they were talking about. There's our Gemini. Here's their Saturn symbol. And we've got the monster, the dragon, coming up from the water, right? And we've got Perseus and Andromeda, who is actually kind of really masculine looking, and I would have never thought of it being a female other than you can see her chest there. But yeah, like very interesting card. So different, than like the Lovers. Such a different feeling. I feel like this one's like a lot of like a fight happening, a protection, right? I'm just waiting for my camera to, there we go. Like that protection, that jumping into action, right? I guess making the choice to fight the dragon and protect Andromeda, right? A very different energy, though. Very different energy than what I feel from the RW. All right, super cool. All right, and now we're going to look at my moon cards. So I decided to pull out the 2 moon cards because technically we would still be we're still in a gibbous moon for this Decan, but we are literally one day from the full moon. And I feel that the full moon energy is more present than the gibbous moon. So we're going to look at that full moon energy, which is surrender to the divine, which I feel is very, very much about what's happening here, right? It's that surrendering. It's that, just like she said in the book, let it just happen, and you can choose to, wait it out, start doing something to keep your mind busy and physically doing something. You can walk away from it. She gave you a couple different ways to handle this energy, right? And in this, the moon is saying surrender to it, right? Just let it be and let it happen, and it'll figure its way out, because whatever's happening is definitely destiny based, right? So I think that that seemed to sit pretty good. When I look at the gibbous energy, you're very close to achieving your goals. I feel like there's an underlining energy of that as well too, right? Because once again, we're still waiting for these things to kind of fall into place, right? Especially when it comes to the Lovers and the Wheel of Fortune, because there is a lot of choices. There is a lot of different things coming forward and a lot of different things happening, which will bring you closer to achieving your goals or your desired outcome or the things that you want, right? But you are in a period of kind of like that, like not being able to move forward, right? That paralysis of just too many options, too many things, too much stuff going on, and just not being able to make a choice, right? So really, really interesting energies that are coming into place. We are still dealing with the King of Swords, the Knight or the Page of Pentacles, and the Ace of Pentacles. So once again, I will not refer to those because we have already kind of gone over them, but those are what's present, and they're still happening. When we look at the Hermetic Tarot, it's still all the same too. The King of Swords, the Princess of Pentacles instead of the Page, and the Ace of Pentacles. So these are those little extra underlying energies that you can tap into if you need a little bit more help with it. And like I said, I don't go into them too much because I find them to kind of overwhelm this all and possibly create a little bit of confusion. But they're there, and they're on her wheel, on Susan's wheel in her book, if you want to refer to them and just pay a little bit more attention to that energy, or dive in a little bit deeper and check it out for yourself if you feel comfortable. This is the energy that is going to be in place from May 21st to May 30th. So our next Decan will come in on May 31st. And then we have some more changes happening, right? So this is kind of what we're going to be facing and what's going on from the 21st to the 30th. I can already foretell and see how this is going to come into play in our lives. I hope that it's not so traumatic and we're able to kind of get past it, because that would be excellent. Because like I said, there's still so many things up in the air and stuff just being tied in and different things happening. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this comes into play. But yeah, here's your next Decan in your next 10 days. Hopefully everything goes well. Hopefully good things happen, even though we're immobilized and we might not be able to make good choices. Hopefully the Wheel of Fortune is spitting out positive things and good things coming forward for us. And maybe we'll be so paused and immobilized with happiness and so many wonderful things that we will be immobilized, right? And hopefully this is more on a positive side, right? Because it's not necessarily negative. It can be so many good things that you don't know what to do, right? So let's hope it's something like that. But anyways, thanks for watching. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Enjoy your next 10 days.